After the mini-DRS, concerns about the T-tray control system, and speculations about water-cooled tires, a new technical dispute ignites the Las Vegas Grand Prix weekend. According to a report first published by the German outlet Automotor on Sport, the Federation has taken immediate action to prevent potential illicit practices related to controlling floor wear. The FIA aims to eliminate any doubts about the gray areas in the regulations, building on what was done in 2022 with Technical Directive 039. Ground effect technical regulations have encouraged teams to lower their ride height as much as possible. The three-dimensional floors equipped with Venturi channels generate more aerodynamic downforce the closer they work to the ground. Over the years, this has prompted teams to come up with strategies to reduce floor wear in order to lower the cars even further. The cars now touch the ground much more, and due to their design in the plank area, its flexibility has become more important than in the past, as confirmed by FIA Technical Director Nikolas Tombazis back in 2022. Previously, it was just something that could gain a couple of millimeters of height, whereas now it can significantly affect the car's behavior and the driver's perception. The technical regulations stipulate that the plank, the resin board running along the underside of the car, must have a thickness of 10 millimeters. It cannot wear more than 1 millimeter over the course of a Grand Prix, or the car risks disqualification, with measurements to be taken at the designated holes. However, at the start of 2022, the FIA suspected that some teams were exploiting excessive flexibility in the plank to reduce its wear when in contact with the track surface. For this reason, starting with the 2022 Belgian Grand Prix, the FIA extended the inspection to the area around the measurement holes with Technical Directive 039, checking that the plank did not have discontinuous rigidity and was instead made from a material of homogeneous density, as required by the regulations. It was also specified that no tricks would be allowed to protect the edges of the measurement holes from wear. However, 2 years later, it appears that the directive has not completely closed all the gray areas. The 1 millimeter wear limit actually does not only apply to the resin board, but also to the entire plank assembly. This includes the metal plates known as skids, which are typically placed in alignment with the measurement holes for the thickness. According to Automotor on Sport, the FIA is concerned that some teams may be using elements or protective treatments to limit wear. However, the technical regulations leave little room for interpretation. Article 3. 5.9 states that the skids must be made exclusively from titanium alloys, specifically AMS 4928 and AMS 4911. It further specifies that the plates can only be milled from solid material, and no treatments can be carried out before or after the machining process, such as forging, rolling, welding, or surface treatments. The same article clarifies that the skids must be mounted so that their entire lower surface is visible from underneath, thus prohibiting the application of additional protective plates. Recent reports also suggest possible tricks related to the mounting and deformability of the fastening screws. Again, the regulations are very clear, specifying that the screws must be no smaller than an M6 and must be made from steel of grade 12.9 and 10.9. In theory, the screws should not protrude from beneath the plank assembly, and thus could not serve as protection against wear. The thickness of the plank varies between 10 and 9 millimeters, and it is mounted on the reference plane, from which the screws cannot extend more than 8 millimeters. The latest intervention from the Federation is surprising due to its timing, given the minimal notice given to the teams just hours before they take to the track in Las Vegas. According to our information, some teams are puzzled, as typically a technical directive requires time to be implemented, since it adds to the technical regulations during the season and therefore should give teams adequate time to adjust. The approach used by the FIA does not seem to be a formal technical directive, but rather a targeted communication to the affected teams to clear up any doubts about the interpretation of the existing rules. For this violation, last year, Charles Leclerc's SF-23 and Lewis Hamilton's W14 were disqualified after technical checks at the Austin Grand Prix. Designers have long identified the underbody as the area of the wing car from which greater potential can be extracted. The correct interaction between the upper floor aerodynamics and the Venturi channel floor ensures the ideal vertical load to achieve excellent performance with the current generation of F1 cars. This situation will change with the new regulatory framework in 2026. To optimize the ground effect, aerodynamic engineers have studied various solutions aimed at sealing the underside of the car at the bodywork. This is why one of the primary goals for F1 teams during the design and setup phase is to minimize the ride height from the reference plane in order to maximize the ground effect while staying within the limits set by the technical regulations. It's worth noting that the holes drilled in the plank, which, incidentally, is not made of wood but a composite material, are surrounded by titanium skid blocks mounted flush. The trick devised by some engineers consists of cleverly positioning the fastening screws at the rear of the skid blocks, which creates a cushion to prevent wear on the plank, especially in its rear segment. As often happens, the discovery of this borderline practice by the International Federation came from a competitor's report, specifically from Red Bull. The Milton Keynes and McLaren teams reportedly do not use this trick, unlike other cars on the starting grid. The effectiveness of the technical directive will be immediate, starting from the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Some teams, Ferrari in particular, had requested that the implementation of the technical directive be postponed until the end of the season. However, the FIA rejected this proposal, as the directive represents a clarification of an existing regulation. Ferrari is among the teams that have made changes to be compliant with the FIA's requirements. In light of this decision, there is a hypothetical consideration to make. Could the introduction of a new floor on the SF-24 during the last triple header of the season be a corrective adjustment rather than an evolutionary one compared to the specification used up until the Brazilian Grand Prix? Assuming that even a washer on a car is designed with the sole purpose of providing performance, it will be interesting to see if this further tightening of FIA regulations during the season will alter the competitive balance on the track. The application of this rule could, on paper, be a disadvantage for Ferrari. This all comes with just a few days ahead of a Grand Prix that will be particularly demanding in terms of floor wear. On the straights of the 6.2-kilometer Las Vegas Strip circuit in Nevada, cars spend a lot of time over 300 kilometers per hour when aerodynamic load is at its maximum, pushing the cars down onto the track. Some teams, with Ferrari suspected among them, may need to raise their cars and sacrifice some aerodynamic downforce, but only the track will reveal the impact on lap times. This situation could limit the performance of the Italian car on the long, high-speed sections of the Las Vegas circuit, where an inadequate ride height on a resurfaced but still imperfectly smooth track, being essentially an urban circuit, could lead to excessive wear on the SF-24's plank. On the other hand, by raising the issue, Red Bull would face no limitations regarding the new FIA directive, just as McLaren, which apparently did not use the suspected trick now banned by the International Federation, would not be affected.